COVID-19 has impacted us all.
It has taken lives and loved ones.
It has put our education on hold.
It has taken jobs and careers.
It has put us in danger.
Everyone has felt the impact of lockdown.
But for us, the impact has the potential to alter the course of our lives forever.
We are a generation disrupted.
But we refuse to let this pandemic steal our future.
We are resilient.
We are brave.
We are strong.
The global youth mobilization is our chance to make a change.
To find solutions that works for us, that are led by us.
We are joining forces with global organizations that are committed to helping us rebuild our communities and reset our futures.
We are calling on governments, policymakers, and brands to prioritize youth-focused policies.
We are championing our access and inclusion in education.
The Global Youth Summit 2021 will mark the start of a global movement
to channel investment, ideas, and actions to build a better future.
Young people like you and me from all over the world
are invited to submit our own solutions to local health and societal challenges caused by COVID-19.
This is our chance for our voices to be heard
and our actions to be seen.
Together, we are leading this mobilization.
We are determined to be the heart of solutions.
This is our chance
to bring our vision for a better world to life.
Hello and welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Welcome to everybody on the YouTube chat, on our website. My name is Felipe. I'm a scout from Brazil, and I will be one of the MCs of today's show. And I'm not alone. I'm with my friend Namrata. Hello, Namrata. How are you?
Hi, Felipe. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the platform. I am Namrata Sharma from India, a counseling psychologist from YWC of Delhi. We are so excited to have you here. Today, we are here for the first day of our plenary session. And before we get started, I would request all of you to get engaged on our social media platforms, especially on YouTube, where we are currently live. I would request all of you to be interactive in the comment sections because we would love to read your comments there as well. Right, Felipe?
For sure, Namrata, thanks. And please don't forget to interact with us on the chat, because this event is not just for me or just from Namrata, it's for you all, guys. Be part of this show with us. Don't forget, you also can watch this video from our website. There you can choose the language that you prefer. We have English, Arabic, French, Spanish, and Russian. And don't forget as well, we also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Is just follow us there and interact too. It's GI Mobilization. We also have a hashtag is Youth Mobilize, taking photos, posts on social medias. Please join with us in this event.
Yes, absolutely. We would love to interact with all of you on our social media handles. Also, Felipe, how has the entire atmosphere been after the COVID-19 pandemic in Brazil? How are things there?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Namrata. Here in Brazil, we are having like tough times, hard times, as all around the world. Yeah, our difficult times, it's challenger for everybody. Here in Brazil, I work as a teacher. I'm pretty young, but I'm working as a teacher here, and I think the education get disrupted. Yeah, we have like a big gap in education. I work with children's, and I trying to give like online classes, but it's not the same thing. We are in slow steps to get back to the normally. And how about you in India? How the things are going there?
Oh, in India, things are just getting worse. We are hit by the second wave currently. And the youngsters are struggling a lot because they are so apprehensive about their futures. But Felipe, I must say, this event could not have happened at a better time, because all of us are currently feeling low. But this event is definitely going to give in fact, all the participants so much to learn about. In fact, they are going to learn opportunities where they can channelize their energy into a more positive manner. And with that, I would also like to mention that everyone who is in their homes, please be safe and follow the COVID-19 safety guidelines introduced by your countries. Wash your hands, sanitize them, and maintain social distancing. So with that, we begin the first day of our plenary sessions. And I would like to now invite Tharindra and Michelle, who are the two GYM board members, and they will officially open the event. Please, I welcome you to the platform.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Wherever you're tuning in right now, welcome and thank you for joining us at the Global Youth Summit. My name is Michelle Chushiji and I'm a Youth Commissioner at the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, as well as a board member of the Global Youth Mobilization. To open the summit today, I'm honored to be joined by another amazing young woman that I have had the pleasure to meet and bond with over the past few months. Over to you, Tharindra.
Thank you, Michelle. And it was such a great pleasure to work with you as well. I am Tharindra Armapirama from Sri Lanka, where I'm an emerging leader for the Asia-Pacific region of the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award, and also a board member for the Global Youth Mobilization Initiative, just like Namrata very well said. So what do you think about the importance to have the Global Youth Summit right now, Michelle?
For me, the Global Youth Summit comes at the right time for us to recognize the vast efforts that have been undertaken by young people all around the world over the past year, despite what was a rather extraordinary year for a lot of us. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected our life. For young people especially, the impacts that the pandemic has on our generation will be a long-lasting one. And it is really up to us to actively involve ourselves in post-pandemic recovery efforts to shape the future that we want to live in. We are a generation disrupted, but we refuse to let this pandemic steal our future. We need to shape our own destinies and be part of the solution. As a young person yourself, Tharindra, I'm sure that you would have some personal experiences to share over the past year living with the pandemic. Tell us your story.
Oh, indeed, Michelle. So in Sri Lanka, we have a lot of young people lose their jobs during the pandemic who worked in the hospitality, tourism, and other fields, and also lost a sense of direction in life. And a lot of us had to go through uncertainty without knowing when the pandemic will end. Myself and a lot of peers were facing a lot of mental health challenges with our anxieties and trying to adhere to a work from home culture while isolating ourselves in our homes, which was actually very distressing. But also, on a positive note, an interesting fact was to see young, blooming entrepreneurs and startups and new innovations happening in Sri Lanka. So even with this situation, it was so evident that young people are resilient.
I agree, Tharindra. Those are definitely very real challenges that are faced by youth around the world, and I'm so glad to hear positive notes as well. Another aspect that the pandemic has had a large impact on is education. 87% of students globally have been affected by school, college, and university closures. As a university student myself, I've also had first-hand experience on this issue where plans changed and my education pathway has somewhat been shrouded with an enormous amount of uncertainty. The climate crisis is also another prominent issue that is important for our generation to address and take immediate action upon. Yesterday was Earth Day, and we stand together with all campaigners calling for a greener, more sustainable future. Greta Thunberg, who helped us launch our call for local solutions to the pandemic, was right. If we don't start to change the way we treat our environment, there will only be more frequent occurrences of pandemics. We need to act now. However, despite the many challenges faced by young people, it did not stop us from taking COVID-19 response measures contributing to our communities during these times of needs. We understand that we are capable of assisting, thus we took the initiative to do so, and now It's time for us to show the world that we are unstoppable together. We are the solution to a better, sustainable, and more equal global recovery.
Like you perfectly said, Michelle, the global youth mobilization is our chance to make a change, to find solutions that works for us and that are led by us, that will help us create a healthier, fairer society in the aftermath of COVID-19. Now, it's very important to note that this is a movement by young people, for young people, powered by the big six youth organizations and backed by the World Health Organization and United Nations Foundation. We are calling on governments, policymakers, and brands to prioritize youth-focused policies, to invest in our ideas and solutions, take action and improve our lives and the communities around us during and in a post-COVID-19 world. Now, it's important to notice that there are around 1.2 billion young people impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. There are disruptions in education, employment, services, social support. These have changed an entire generation. Now, this is why it's very important that this initiative coming at a right time, which introduces us to a new platform where we are able to inspire young people to take an active role in the immediate and the long-term recovery from the impact of COVID-19, with the necessary resources to make a meaningful difference. Now, it's very important that we understand we have four strategies when it comes to the mobilization program. So the first one is about grassroots activations of local solutions. We have launched a world first open call to young people to submit their ideas and solutions to the health and societal COVID-19 challenges, with a $2 million funding for young people, youth-led organizations, and accelerator programs to scale up to hear the most effective ideas. So basically, if you have any idea, no matter how big or small, we want to hear from you. Secondly, we are driving a national change by investing in and equipping the networks of big six organizations around the world in response to the impact of COVID-19. Thirdly, we are going to be advocating to a youth-first approach to policymaking, from education, mental health, digital rights, starting right here at the Global Youth Summit, which you are a big part of. Lastly, championing young people is all about contributing to personal and professional development of young people with the disruption of formal and non-formal education. Now, this is a lot of great things happening for us young people, and we are kind of crazy excited to look forward to it, right, Michelle?
Indeed, Tarindra, I'm super excited for this groundbreaking mobilization that will happen over the next 2 years, and I cannot wait to see the innovative local solutions that youth will come up with. So, on to what's going to happen over the next 3 days. This Global Youth Summit is a unique virtual event that is designed by young people ourselves for young people. In the upcoming sessions, youth mobilizers, senior leaders, policymakers, and change makers will come together in one space to discuss the issues and challenges facing young people across the world. As we convene together during the summit to discuss youth efforts in fighting against COVID-19, our thoughts and prayers go out particularly to those who are still suffering greatly from the pandemic. We are aware that cases are still very much on the rise, which just shows us that this battle is not over yet, and more needs to be done. Therefore, this summit is also a critical moment for us to share ideas, experiences, solutions, and exchange best practices that will inspire and support young people to take part actively in the COVID-19 pandemic recovery within their communities and beyond. To give you a glimpse of the enthusiasm surrounding the summit, we have 1,500 participants registered on our virtual platform and are expecting 500,000 young people joining through our live broadcast. There will be 3 plenary sessions with high-profile keynote speakers and more than 70 interactive breakouts and networking sessions, which will be delivered across multiple time zones, brought to you by our supportive range of partners. 50+ expert speakers will also be involved in facilitating these discussions. And we are also proud to announce that you will be able to follow the happenings of the summit in 5 core languages, namely English, French, Spanish, Arabic, and Russian. The full event will be broadcasted live on YouTube, and engagement with participants will be enabled through social media. For more information on the program of the summit, as well as broadcast details, kindly visit our website at www.globalyouthmobilization.org.
Sounds brilliant, Michelle. We are also immensely thankful to the World Health Organization and in particular to the leadership of Dr. Tedros, the United Nations Foundation, and COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund. Without their generous support, the global youth mobilization would not have been possible.
And of course, most importantly, the big 6 youth development organizations, which are the World Organization of the Scout Movement, the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, the World Young Men's Christian Association, the World Young Women's Christian Association, the Duke of Edinburgh's International Ward, and last but certainly not least, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Thank you for your utmost dedication to the global youth mobilization and your efforts in mobilizing millions of young people worldwide to carry out community service as part of COVID-19 response efforts.
Definitely, Michelle. And also for everyone who supported us in all possible ways to make this summit an inspiring program for all of us. And a big thank you to all of you amazing young champions for joining via our Engage network, and most importantly, have fun during the next 3 days. So let's try our best to engage actively in discussions throughout the summit and make our voices be heard. We are super excited to connect with all of you over the weekend. And remember, this is just the start of the Global Youth Mobilization Program.
So without further ado, we would like to declare that the Global Youth Summit is officially open. And now back to our amazing MCs, Philippi and Namrata.
That was amazing. Thanks,
Yeah.
Tarindra. Thanks, Michelle. We are really excited as you both are. I hope you guys in your homes be excited as well too. And as the girl said, we are unstoppable together. And that's what we are doing now. We are online overall, but we are together. And it's really important. And now let's talk with Dr. Van Kerkhove. And she gonna talk about the impact of pandemic on life of young people worldwide. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Maria Van Kerkhove from the World Health Organization. It is such an honor and a pleasure to join you today at this youth summit. I'm really thrilled to be here. And that was a wonderful, energetic, and exciting opening to this 3-day conference. So I am honored to be moderating this first session on COVID-19 and youth. We will be focusing on how the pandemic has changed our lives. I was very struck by the opening remarks about how we are unstoppable together and how the youth of this world are the energy. It's for the youth, by the youth. You are part of the solution. And I'm always energized when I hear these really inspiring words. But before we get to that, let me start with some examples of the diverse impact this pandemic has had on young people. 267 million young people worldwide are estimated to not be in employment, in education, or in training. 1 in 6 young people have become unemployed since the beginning of this crisis. The socioeconomic effects of the pandemic will be felt across all communities, and it is likely to become a food security and livelihoods emergency, in particular in countries where there's already in crisis, but also for the most vulnerable everywhere. Lockdowns and their associated socioeconomic disruptions have had a devastating impact on education, on mental health, on career prospects, safety, and personal development of young people. The pandemic has exacerbated the existing inequalities that were in existence before this pandemic began in our societies with respect to access to resources, information, and power. COVID-19 has made life harder for girls and women. Although these statistics are bleak, we are starting off this summit with an extraordinary group of young people who will show through their stories how resilient young people and how they are dedicated to their families, to their communities, and to their peers. Again, unstoppable together. And I am looking forward to hearing all of your stories. I am very happy to share the floor with three extraordinary young people. The first, Estrella Gutierrez, a young doctor and frontline worker in a Houston hospital. Welcome, Estrella. Alahi Rasha, a volunteer with the International Federation of the Red Cross. Hello, Alahi. And Tamaris Starby Jr. Tamaris is a young man who has gone through many challenges during this pandemic. I would like you to ask each of you to introduce yourselves. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and how COVID-19 has changed your lives. Estrella, let's start with you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Doctor. It's truly an honor to be speaking today at this global event. And as you were saying, I was a young doctor. I'm from Mexico, and I spent the last year in the front line fighting COVID. I worked in the COVID unit in a hospital in Houston from early March 2019 all the way up to January 2021. So the months that I spent treating my patients in the COVID unit were definitely, I would say, one of the most challenging and one of the most darkest months I've ever lived and I've ever experienced. Most of the nights I would go home and completely exhausted, completely emotionally and drained because I would lose patients against the fight with COVID. And yeah, while these were challenging times, they were also one of the most fulfilling times I've ever had in my career as a young doctor. A little bit more about myself is that growing up, I've always had a passion for seeking challenges and helping others. One way I've been always empowered to do so is through Girl Guiding and Girl Scouting, where I've had the opportunity to always volunteering and giving back to my community. As part of seeking a bigger challenge, I decided to continue my medical career and go over to do my medical internship abroad in Houston. But little did I know that strong challenge that I was looking for was gonna hit me like a few months later and was gonna be called COVID-19. I found myself getting COVID admissions, and when they started coming in my day-to-day life, it made a complete 180. I found myself working 16-hour shifts, arriving at the hospital sometimes as early as 4 a.m., wearing 3 to 4 layers of PPE. That would mean that thick bodysuits, thick plastic bodysuits. We would wear boots, then your N95, then face shields, one on top of the other, to the point that you wouldn't even recognize your colleague that was just right next to you. So you would go and dress up and then go into the COVID unit and check up on your patients just to witness how quickly their conditions could change. I mean, one day they were breathing by their own, next day they were on oxygen support, and boom, last day they were intubated, you couldn't tell. Sometimes we do celebrate small victories as my patients would actually get to go home, but most of the times we didn't. Patients didn't make it. Living that same day over months and months, it was just like a bad dream that kept repeating. And no one, the most stressful thing is that no one had real answers on how to make it better. But I realized that what kept me going through all of that was seeing my friends. I would see them, and my friends, my fellow colleagues who were already overwhelmed as much as I was, they would continue to give their all to the patients, and just because of one reason, because that patients that we would look at the eye, straight at the eye, through all the layers of PPE, were relying on us to beat COVID. So starting off my career as a young doctor in the middle of a pandemic was definitely not part of my game plan. But I think I've come out stronger because of it.
Dr. Gutierrez, thank you so much for that introduction and for the work that you do and for the work of all frontline workers around the world. I am sure you didn't plan on this as the start, but you definitely are stronger for it. Elahi, can I pass the floor to you for an introduction? You have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Van Kerkhove. I'm really honored and thrilled to be here today. Like Estrella said, I have quite a similar experience at the beginning of the pandemic. So since March 2020, very first case in Bangladesh detected, Bangladesh Red Crescent Society started responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. So I am a Red Cross Red Crescent youth volunteer. I have been volunteering for more than 16 years now since my childhood. And when the COVID-19 pandemic hit here in Bangladesh, I led the very first COVID-19 disinfection program in Bangladesh in different hospitals of Dhaka city. So what I, along with my short team, used to do, we went different hospitals in shift at night and go to the COVID units where the COVID patient used to stay, and we disinfected the whole space, the personal belongings of the healthcare professionals and the patients. Because at the beginning of the pandemic, the hospitals needed more supporting hand, and everyone was in a fix what to do really. So we wanted to make sure the hospital environments are safe for the patients, for the healthcare professionals, and we did it quite successfully. So for 2 months, we have facilitated this program while living in total isolation, not meeting anyone, not going outside of our isolation unit, just going to the hospitals in our regular shift. So that was really frustrating in some cases. Like as Estrella said, I would like to echo my voice. We used to go to the COVID units and we met some people. We see they were really thrilled and excited to see us, people of such young age going to in such risky areas, making the place safe for them. But we were not sure if we could see the same people the next day. So there are so many cases like that, which has made us devastated. We have seen death. We have seen like son refusing to take their father's body. We have carried critical COVID patients to the hospitals. So these are the challenges we face. But having said that, I was not the only one. There are like thousands, hundreds and thousands of young volunteers all over the world who have been doing this type of work. And I guess the COVID-19 pandemic has changed everyone's life to some extent. We have seen a volunteer surge in last year in our Red Cross Red Crescent movement. Like I can say there are 78,000 young volunteers in USA, 60,000 volunteers in Italy, 35,000 young volunteers in Kenya, and so on have signed up last year to respond to support their communities. So that has truly been an inspiration for each one of us to get involved and carry on this good work that we have been doing.
Thank you so much, Elahi, for this life-saving work and the point you mentioned about isolation and feeling so isolated from others. I think all of us have felt that throughout this pandemic in many different ways. So thank you for your volunteer work and for the volunteers of so many around the world. Tamaris, can I pass the floor to you to introduce yourself? You have the floor.
Yes, you can. Good morning, good night, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching this right now. Thank you, Dr. Van Kerkhove. It's such an honor to be on this call with you. I also would like to thank Estrella and Elahi for also being on the call with me right now to express the experiences that they've gone through during this time. But I'm Tamar Solenzo Darby Jr. I'm from the state of Michigan. I attend Washington International High School, and on March 16th of 2020, in Michigan, in Washtenaw County, the first 2 cases of COVID-19 struck Washtenaw County, and that is when my life changed. That is when I left school, not knowing that a year later, I still would not be back in school. That is when I left church, not knowing that upon my returning back to church, that I was going to have to wear masks and stay 6 feet apart from other members. But the most important thing is I didn't know how many people would leave this world, how many people would leave my country, how many people would leave my family. But looking back on it, I have to realize that I have to stop worrying about things that I can't control. And that is something that I've really taken with me through this pandemic, because I've lost 5 family members to COVID-19. I've lost 3 family members on my father's side and 2 on my mother's side, all within a span of 3 weeks. And through that time, it really felt like I couldn't win for lose. But I had to pick my head up, and I had to realize that that was something that I couldn't control. That only made me more excited to help people, to help families that have experienced what I've been through. And with that being said, I just want to let you guys know that everything is going to be all right. It's going to be okay, because look, me right here, I am a living testimony to you guys. I have been around several people that have come into contact with the virus, but every time I've taken a test, I've always come up negative. So to be before you today saying that it's going to be all right, take heed to those words, because COVID-19, although yes, it has affected me in a lot of negative ways, I've had a lot of positive come out of this, and I thank you.
Tamaris, thank you so much for those inspiring words. I'm so sorry for the loss of your family members. And in fact, the fact that we have lost so many people in our lives in this pandemic, I don't think we've all collectively had a chance to really grieve and go through this. But I am also inspired by your words and your positivity of turning this situation into something positive that you can control. And I think the powerful words that you just said in what we can control, do what we can control is really quite inspiring. So thank you very much for that. So for all of you, thank you for sharing your experiences. I'd like to ask you all a question. Alahi, I'm going to start with you. Here's the question that we'll pose to you. How did you find the motivation to dedicate yourself to community service so intensively during the pandemic? What were your driving factors, and how did your experience help your colleagues who may not have been as active in their communities before the pandemic?
Thank you for the question. This is probably the most heard question in my volunteering career, because like Estrella, as I said before, I started volunteering very early in my life when I was in school, grade 6. So people often ask, why do you volunteer? You are not get paid. You often have to pay for the others, and you still volunteer. What is your take in it? So to be honest, I could never able to have the correct answer. It's just this excitement. So when I started volunteering, I think of something new, something exciting doing. But eventually that turned into an addiction. So when I first went into a relief operation, I see how we could change people's life, how our small steps can impact others' lives. So that's been my first motivation. And since the first operation that I took part in, I could never stop myself in last 16 years. And I don't think I could never been able to. So whenever this type of crisis took place, I I find kind of responsible to jump in, and if I have a role to play, I feel restless if I can't join. So during this pandemic, when I have been seeing young people all over the world, like I said, mentioned the numbers. So I have been watching the social media, how young people have been responding to this pandemic. So I was mentally ready. So I had to put my efforts on this pandemic and respond to this crisis. So that's been my motivation. And it's like once you take the first step, and others will eventually follow. So once I join the effort and I see some of my friends knock me and colleagues knock me, so how do you get involved? I would also like to volunteer. What are the procedures? So that's how it's like. If you can have the courage to take the first step, I think it's become easy. So that's it. That's been my motivation. Thank you.
Thank you, Elahi. That was a great answer. I love this. Take the first step. It's a good. It's a good. Good statement. Tamaris, I'd like to ask you the next question. Your family has been through a very challenging time during this pandemic, like millions of families around the world. Your resilience is really remarkable. Can you talk a little bit more about your coping mechanisms and what has helped you and your family through this?
Yes, and I will be very happy to do that. So, before this pandemic, when I was 15 years old, I had not had a job yet. Well, I had a job, but I had to leave that job because I was working at Kroger, a grocery store chain, and my parents, they were not comfortable with letting me continue to work. And there's over hundreds of people that come into a grocery store, every day. So I left that. And I relied on them, they were really my backbone throughout this, my family, my 4 siblings that live in the house with me, my grandparents. But ultimately, what really helped me to cope was to start finding things that would take my mind away from what was going on so that I wouldn't so much dwell on it, so that it wouldn't make me get weary or it wouldn't necessarily bring me down. So when I turned 15, I went out and I got my second job. And then 8 months later, I went out and I got another job. So right now I currently have 2 jobs. And after that, I started getting engaged and more engaged in community, more engaged in advocacy for youth and civic engagement. For example, I am the executive director of the legislative department for an organization called Vote 16 Michigan. I have recently been nominated or am being nominated by the Ann Arbor YMCA CEO to sit on the board of directors as a youth member. I have a lot of great things that have really kind of come out of this pandemic for me that I necessarily wouldn't have been able to do had it not came about. And that's really how I dealt with a lot of things. I went to work sometimes to help me cope, or I indulged myself in the extracurricular activities that I was partaking in. Because yes, my family, we have been through a tough time. My mother, she was pregnant and was carrying a baby through this pandemic. But seeing my mother, this is the true inspiration for me. The way I truly was able to cope and know that everything was going to be all right. My mother, a very strong woman, was pregnant during this pandemic, had to go on maternity leave, which means she ultimately took a pay cut. She raised 4 children during this pandemic, started a small business during this pandemic, and now she is raising 5 children, has a small business, but she also has an office building. So looking at my mother's story and seeing the braveness that she had to do all that she's done during this pandemic, even though she took a loss, made me realize that, yes, I'm going to take some losses in life. But looking at my mother's story, it makes me realize that at the end of the day, we may fall, but the hardest part is how are we going to get back up and survive? And that is what I've been playing over in my mind. And it has helped me cope and deal with a lot of the things that I have been affected by during this pandemic.
Jamaris, it sounds like you have a really strong mom, and she's raised a really strong young man. So that was a fantastic answer. And thank you for sharing that about family and getting engaged and turning that energy into helping you cope through this very difficult time. Estrella, I'm going to turn to you next. How has your experience being part of a movement such as guiding helped you in coping with the challenges you faced while working through those long shifts at the hospital that you described earlier?
Well, this is actually a very fascinating question since Girl Guides has not only helped me in this challenge, in this specific time, while being at the hospital or while being in COVID, but it has helped me throughout my life, day by day, on a daily basis. And so to give you a background of why I'm saying this is I've been a Girl Scout since I was 6 years old. So for me, being a Girl Scout is not just a separate event, but rather than a lifestyle. For the ones who are not familiar with WAGS, or the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, is the largest global organization dedicated to girls and young women that supports over 10 million young people around 152 countries. So the main focus of this movement is to empower girls to develop skills, raise their voice, and overall defend their ideas to contribute in shaping a better world. So at its core, girl guiding is based upon the skills, and you get teamwork, you get communication, you get problem solving, decision making, you get time and stress management, and a very important one that I found, I found fundamental in the COVID crisis is adaptability. So all of those skills I've been already working on throughout my girl guiding journey, and many of them are already embedded in me, or so I hope. And they all were for sure a fundamental part of our COVID unit team in order for it to work as a well-oiled machine. And it all worked well because we all had also a common goal, and we just looked forward to it. Also, people kept telling me, I remember that, how do you make it? How do you go like day by day, even though you can tell like nothing gets better or nothing gets different, you know? So my answer to that is very easy. My answer to that is one of my favorite of the Girl Guides law, which is a girl guide faces a challenge and learns from her experience. So I would do that. I would only follow that law. I would go then, if it was not a very good day, I would just face the challenge, learn from it, and then tomorrow I will get up and do the same, face the challenge, and eventually learn from it. So every day I kept going. So girl guiding has been a lifestyle for me, and it has helped me through this pandemic and on my day-to-day life.
Thank you so much. Face a challenge and learn from it. I think those are words to live by. And I love the learning of the skills and raising your voice. We all need to learn how to use our voices for the power of good. So I'm going to move on to ask each of you an additional question. We're running a teeny bit short on time, so if you could keep your answers to maybe 1 or 2 minutes each. Is there any advice, I'm going to ask you each the same question, is there any advice that you would like to give young people around the world to better handle the challenges that they face during this ongoing pandemic? Tamaris, let me start with you first.
So I do have a piece of advice. To all of the youth watching right now, I want you to know that it is okay to cry. It is okay to rely on your close confidants. It is okay to rely on family, because it's something that I've had to do, and it's what's really keeping me strong right now. I want you guys to know that my ultimate goal in life at the moment is to get involved in politics and to become the president of the United States. And because I have family that they want to see that dream happen. They want to see it come true. Despite what this pandemic has taken us through, they've made sure that I've stayed involved in every single extracurricular activity and in anything that is going to take me to that route. So that I would say to you is know that it's going to be okay. To keep your head up. Again, emphasis on the keep your head up. Because if you're able to keep your head up, you know, I'm taught this in my everyday life that when you walk through fire, you won't be burned. When you walk through water, the water will not, it may get high, but it won't cross your nose, meaning that it's gonna be okay. You're gonna go through challenges, but what doesn't kill you makes you strong. And I want you guys to know that everything is going to be all right. Just keep your head up and rely on the ones that love and care for you.
Thank you, Tamaris. Alahi, what is your answer to this question?
First of all, I would like to thank Tamaris for your wonderful words. That's been really inspirational. I'm really touched. And to answer to your question, I'd like to share an experience, what we have been doing right now at the second part of this COVID pandemic response. So we have seen like young people have been have lost their jobs. They're facing tremendous mental health issues. So partnering with my workplace, BRAC, who have been offering online skills training for the young people, like the graphics designing, web development, etc. So, so we have partnered with our Red Crescent Youth Volunteers, and now the Red Crescent Youth Volunteers from all over the country in Bangladesh will receive a 3 months online skills training followed by an employment opportunity. So this is some kind of recovery work that we have been doing to support the young people, regardless of their gender, if they have any disability or not. So everyone will get a chance to that online training. So I also would like to recommend the young people all around the world to keep up the response work that you have been doing so far. Like we have seen, like how the young people in India together burying the disease by COVID-19. Around 4,500 young Red Crescent volunteers have been supporting the vaccination program. So keep up the response work, and at the same time, do the recovery work, take local actions, because local solutions are really important. Take data-driven, research-driven local actions, which is really important. And it's the local action that really matters. So that would be my suggestions to the young people all around the world. And I also think this is the kind of work like the global youth mobilization is all about, like taking local actions. So that would eventually make an impact globally. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alahi. Estrella?
Sure. So I want to add, I want to highlight a fact that impressed me a lot. I think they said it at the start of the event, which is that COVID-19 has impacted approximately 1.2 billion of young people across the entire world, from which 267 of those young people are currently estimated not to be in any sort of education, any sort of training or employment. But what's even worrying me the most is that out of that number, a disproportionate number of those young people are young women. So now, besides what my friends just said, I wanna speak to you. I wanna speak to the girl that's on the other side of the screen. I want you to know that your voice counts. So, and I wanna highlight some 3 things, because it's our job to raise our voice and demand a better reality. It's our job to inspire other girls that might not have the opportunity to be here today. It's our job to enable and to engage in programs in your community to create solutions to create a better reality. For me, I got to do all of that through Girl Guiding. I got to be better at responding at a pandemic. I got better at managing all of that. So it's really our job to leave this world better than we found it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I wholeheartedly agree. Young people, your voices, all of your voices matter. Young girls, women, your voices matter. And it is our responsibility to ensure we make a better world for ourselves and for all of our futures. I want to thank all of you for these really excellent answers. Your stories, the challenges that you have faced, the ways that you have overcome them, the advice that you have given is important. And we can all learn, we will all learn from them. And this is what this summit, this next 3-day summit is aiming to do, to enable young people to support themselves and their peers through these challenging and these uncertain times, to offer opportunities for community service and engagement through implementing local and innovative solutions, and give young people the advocacy platform to build upon in the coming period, and to ensure that governments and leaders hear your voices. Speak up, speak out, and demand that change. I would like to thank you all so much for everything that you are doing. I would like to close this session by thanking you once again for this really inspiring and encouraging conversation. I wish you all the best. And I hope, Tamaris, that you do run for office someday. I will look forward to those election posters and those videos. But to all of you, stay safe. Keep yourself safe. Keep your family safe. Hold tight to your loved ones. And I wish you all a very successful event over the next 3 days. Thank you for the opportunity to participate.
Wow, that was so inspiring. Estrella, Tamaras, Elahi, and especially Dr. Van Kerkhove. Your moderation was beautiful and the speakers were so inspiring. I could never imagine the actual power of the youngsters, but today I got to see so much of power in them, and I feel very motivated. So I would like to ask all the participants, how was your experience with our first session? Go and comment in the chat box. We would love to see what were your experience and learnings from this session. What did you feel? Would you like to say anything to our speakers, our moderator? We would love to hear from you. Right, Felipe?
For sure. I think that I have to mention it's in the first time we are just listening with our ears, yeah, and after we are listening the stories and we start to listen with the heart, yeah. I think they said like really important things, really important things. I love the final text of Estrella said about left a better word to everybody and act. You have to act. We have to act. Thanks for this extraordinary, this amazing session. Thanks.
Yeah. Now I think we are ready to move to a short break because I think, people must be stuck to their chairs for some time and just move around, get a cup of coffee, go wash your hands, go hug your dog, and just take a tiny little break. Don't focus on your phones because we really want you to relax your eyes. But before we go to a short break, we have a special message to share with you from the UN envoy on youth. Enjoy.
Hello everyone, my name is Jatma Vikramanayaka. I'm the United Nations Secretary General's envoy on youth. We all know the figures at heart by now. An estimated 1.2 billion young people are impacted by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and its response. Disruptions to education, employment, services, and social support have changed the future of an entire generation. But while young people have been disproportionately affected by the socioeconomic impacts of this pandemic, they have at the same time been at the forefront of the response and recovery with their skills, innovation, motivation, creativity, with a strong sense of justice and equality, an aptitude for technology, and a flair for peer mobilization. In the face of extreme hardship, young people around the world have come together with unwavering passion for finding solutions to address this crisis and hold decision makers to account. It's time we celebrate young people's contributions and reward them for their efforts. We need to invest in youth-led action and scale up local solutions to global problems. We need sustained and concrete commitments. I stand in solidarity with young people in all parts of the world who continuously demonstrate agency, leadership, and resilience in the face of a very uncertain future. And I commit my continued support to the global youth mobilization. At the United Nations, we use our youth strategy, Youth 2030, as our steering wheel to address the impacts, as the negative impacts of the pandemic on young people. It's our blueprint for not only working for young people, but with young people. With less than 10 years left to deliver on the 2030 agenda, intergenerational partnerships are key for the implementation of the SDGs. So let's work together to ensure that a generation disrupted becomes a generation that is empowered and included to build back better for a more just, equal, and sustainable world for all.
Welcome back, everybody, and I hope you guys are enjoying your break. And now I have a question for all of you. Please answer me in the chat, and I will ask Namrata here. Namrata, do you like to dance?
Oh, I love to dance. I can dance anywhere, to be very honest.
Amazing, amazing. And I don't know if you guys know a video game that's called Just Dance. We're gonna do something similar, okay? So take your space there in your house and get prepared, because now it's time for, we call this Energizer, for get energy for the next session. So everybody, please stand up and please dance with the video, okay? Let's go. 3, 2, 1, let's dance.
Are you ready to get funky?
heard what was that, I enjoyed myself thoroughly.
Oh my God, I even get a little bit tired. Yeah, I hope
Same
you
here.
all have enjoyed our Energizer. Tomorrow we have another one, so don't lose it, okay? And now let's talk with Dr. Tidrus and discover how youth movements are created. What's the importance of youth activism, even on internet? Let's build youth movements with Dr. Tidrus.
Thank you very much. That's truly energizing. So thank you. That's the advantage of having a meeting with youth. We get energy and inspiration. So thank you so much for that. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from all over the world for this Global Youth Summit. I would particularly like to thank the Big Six youth movements who have joined WHO to make this possible. The World Organization of the Scout Movement, the YMCA, the YWCA, the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, and the Duke of Edinburgh International Award. And I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh, with deep appreciation for the legacy he has left, especially for young people. I would also like to thank the UN Foundation for its support through the COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund for this exciting global movement to mobilize and empower young people around the world to be a driving force in the COVID-19 recovery. Young people may be at lower risk of severe disease from COVID-19, but have been affected in many other ways, from disruptions in education, loss of employment opportunities, mental health challenges, and increased domestic and gender-based violence. Over the next 3 days, young people, leaders, policymakers, and change makers will come together to discuss the challenges facing young people all over the world. This is the time to share your stories, your experiences, your ideas and aspirations, and to inspire and motivate other young people to take an active part in the COVID-19 pandemic recovery with their communities and beyond. But we don't just want to hear your ideas. We want to see them come to life. That's why we have launched the Global Youth Mobilization, through which young people around the world can apply for grants of between 500 and 5,000 US dollars to support innovative local solutions to address the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is just one way WHO is fostering meaningful and sustained youth engagement. We also developed the Global Health Workforce Youth Hub and have done youth outreach in areas such as nutrition and non-communicable diseases. And in December, we created the WHO Youth Council to provide a platform for young people to give advice directly to our leadership on health and development issues. We will be inviting applications shortly. Thank you to all of you for participating in this youth summit, for engaging with the global youth mobilization to bring your crazy and innovative ideas to life. Often, it can feel that we're powerless to change the world, but your projects, your voices, and your choices can make a real difference. I wish you all a very successful summit. I thank you. Now, Now, I'm pleased to take part in a discussion with 4 inspiring young people who are making a real difference in the lives of many people in the communities in which they work. During this session, we will look at the role of youth movements and the importance of youth activism, and we will learn firsthand from young people who are perfect examples of what the global youth mobilization is about. First, I would like to introduce Prashant Divisar from Sri Lanka, Unites and Global Unites, to describe his work on youth activism. Prashant, you have the floor.
Thank you. Dr. Tedros, thank you for this opportunity. Let me greet you all in the way we greet people here in Sri Lanka. Ayubowan, Vanakkam, and Assalamu Alaikum. It's an absolute joy and a privilege to be part of this conversation. I represent an amazing group of young leaders from Sri Lanka and in 13 other countries through the Global Unites movement. We are a peace-building movement, a new generation of peace builders who are committed to overcome the challenges of violence and hate and prejudice in our societies. This pandemic has revealed to us that, we are humanity, we're all in this together. And regardless of your ethnicity, your religion, your tribe, it's time for us to start thinking more deeply about our common identity and to ensure that we have a thriving society. So Sri Lanka Unites is mainly working on building an inclusive Sri Lankan identity, and Global Unites does that through other 13 movements across the world in each of these countries to overcome that hate, the prejudice, the division, and letting young people lead the way and showing what a united nation could be. And at this pandemic, we do address the virus, but we've had a longer virus, this virus of prejudice and hate in our societies. And it's important that we come together and respond to these challenges. And we've seen this, that many people who have seen violence from one generation to another, prejudice from one generation to another, finally saying, it ends with me. Our generation will not take this evil forward. And working to create meaningful integration, meaningful opportunities to understand the grievances and the hurts of communities in our own nations, and work to ensure that we can all have a just and thriving nation. And that's what the Global Unites movement is about. And we are honored to be part of this journey. And we want to inspire and encourage young people across the world. Change begins with each one of us. We have to respond. And if we start doing our part, we would start seeing change, not just in our lifetime, but for generations to come. So thank you for this privilege and opportunity.
Now thank you, Prashant. Now I have the pleasure to introduce Zainab Dahmoul from Tunisia to describe her local activism on preventing harassment and promoting gender equality. Zainab, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Tedros. Greetings, everyone. My name is Zainab Dahmoul. I'm from Tunisia. I am 21 years old, a business student, a girl troop leader with the Tunisian Scouts, and I am an advocacy champion with the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, WAGS. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of our movement of 10 million girls and young women around the world. So you may ask, what are our many responsibilities as young advocates? We are working towards fighting violence against girls and women that have serious and life-altering impact on our physical and mental well-being. We're working on boosting girls' self-esteem and body confidence because girls need to be seen and heard. Today's generation of young women will be disproportionately affected by the long-lasting consequences of COVID-19, isolation, mental health challenges, unequal access to nutrition and education, and the struggle to get menstrual hygiene products are some of the problems girls and young women currently face. That's why their needs must be considered, and their experiences put at the heart of both short and long-term solutions to the health and societal impacts of COVID-19. Thank you.
Yeah. Shukran, Zainab. I would now like to call on Shakira Chunara from South Africa to discuss her support to youth movements focused on sexual and reproductive health. Shakira, very nice to meet you. We have been friends for many years, actually. So thank you so much for your activism and leadership, Shakira. You have the floor.
Good day, Dr. T, as I call you outside of this webinar. It's indeed good to meet you as well. To jump right into it, young people, young activists, and the youth power who's listening into this call or this conference and summit today. By means of introduction, I'm Shakira Chinara, based in and confined to Johannesburg, South Africa because of the pandemic. As a public health practitioner, I work on a vast array of issues. The past few years, I stumbled into youth development. My work in youth development is to support youth organizations, youth networks, and young people globally, but not just around the world, specifically in Africa, which is my home continent. Within the African continent, I focus primarily and we work together on sexual and reproductive health, and specifically patients, young patients who live with HIV and those who have non-communicable diseases. But I want to bring that to light. I want to unpack that because that's just a bunch of words, really. To put it into context, as I supported young people living with HIV to try and start up their movement, it wasn't created, to try. As we sat in a donor meeting, one thing that struck me was the young person who told the donor how he was chased out of his home when his family found out about his HIV status. Within this upcoming network, there were so many young women who were either unemployed, but who also couldn't meet their material needs. And they often did not have food to take the antiretroviral drugs. Then other work has included working with communities, women and girls, all across the continent. And there's one common thread that came out, which shakes me and keeps me up at night. And that's the stories of being survivors of rape and violence, not once, not twice, but multiple times. And I'll leave you with that because that's the essence of the work that I do, but also the issues I hope to address.
Thank you so much, my friend Shakira. And finally, I'm happy to introduce Ehab Badwi from Syria and ask him to describe his work with the Syrian Youth Assembly and his work on peace building and scouting.
Hello, everyone.
Ehab,
thank you very much for having me today here. Thanks. And I'm very honored to be with you, trying to share some of my experience. My name is Ehab Badawi. I'm from Syria, 28 years old. I'm the founder of the Syrian Youth Assembly and the youth representative of the World Organization of Scout Movement. I'm studying political science in Berlin, and I'm very interested on young people issue, especially about education and peace building. And this is exactly what I'm trying to work on and to try to support young people from Syria, to give them the access to higher education, to support their capacity, and give them the right to participate actively in the Syrian peace process. I'm activist in the youth peace and security agenda since 2015. And this is exactly what I'm trying to do with the World Organization of Scout Movement, to try to support education and development on peace building. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Shukran again, Ehab. And now I think we will be moving into the most interesting part. So I have some questions for you to dig a little bit deeper. So I will not ask you many questions, but at least one for each. But I will start from Ihab. And I would like to ask you, Ihab, if you can elaborate on what it takes to motivate young people to rally behind the cause.
Thanks for the question. In 2016, for the first time, when we start to think about how we can support young people from Syria and what exactly young people need, we get to be able and to understand that young people are tired and they need peace. Peace can bring them all right back and also can give them education, can give them work, and can give them home. Like the challenge young people from Syria lived in the last 10 years, it's very difficult. Thousands of those young people are refugees today around the world. Thousands of them looking for any opportunity for having education or work. And many of them who living in poor life. Through the Syrian Youth Assembly and from the last 4 years, we get to be able to support more than 100,000 of young Syrians, and we provide them many educational opportunities. And we try to be able to provide more capacity and building and trying to support their skills. And also all this, it was through digital solution. We try to work with them on finding a way to give them an active participation in the Syrian peace process through the Youth Peace and Security agenda. We get to be able to organize workshop and consultation and to try to put the contact directly with the stakeholders of the Syrian peace process. We get to be able as well to include the Syrian youth today with the global challenge like climate change or response to COVID-19. And we see that it's like the investment with those young people today to let them be able to face and solve some of the challenge of the future. Like one of the most things it's helped us to support young people and to continue our work in our movement. It's like when you're able to believe in our capacity and our skills as young people, give us the space to communicate and hear from us. Believe in the solution and ideas we try always to provide to solve those problems. Believe that's our participation in designing this policy, building partnership with us. If we are really looking to bring young people together for one case, we have to believe, we have to let them feel that they are not alone, and we have to give them the access to education and development. And the most important thing in peace building, providing like the support and to protect those young people to let them able to do their mission. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ihab. So the next question will go to Shakira. Shakira, can you please describe your key learnings and challenges from working as a youth activist? I have known you for so many years now. I think you have rich experience.
So Dr. T, I think I have so much to say on it, but I'm going to try and push some key points that people can discuss in this conference. And I think I'll start off by saying and recognizing that young people across the world have this immense energy, passion that they bring to the room, bold ideas, and they're able to self-organize and actually lead movements. In fact, in our generation, what's the most exciting is that with a simple click of a button, or even if we create a hashtag, we're able to bring entire governments to a standstill. And that is why certain governments actually switch off the internet at times, because they know the power that young people hold. But despite this passion and energy, what we have to be honest about is that youth activists become frustrated over time, they become tired over time, but also one cannot be a volunteer forever. We shouldn't underestimate the amount of time, energy, capacity, investment it takes to create a functional, robust, and long-term youth movement. I'm going to tell it like it is because this is a youth setting. What I've also observed over time is that there's a follow the money game, donor dependency. Let's not, there's so much of focus on that versus trying to solve society's issues. And then going into what I would caution about youth movements, There are some youth movements already, or who have the potential to become over-bureaucratized, institutionalized, exclusionary, and even elitist. What we find is that there's also a thing called youth politics. When youth enter positions of power, they become gatekeepers which keep other young people out. I'm going to end off with a quick thing, and I think everyone knows this, and we talk about this, is that there's fragmentation. Even in the health sector, we see how there's fragmented youth movements, and we all are doing excellent work within the health sector and across the health sector. So I leave the gathering with one recommendation today for the Global Youth Mobilization Fund. How do you support youth projects which are cross-sectoral or which span different sectors?
Thank you so much, Shakira. That's very interesting. I think we need to know more about the gatekeeper. That's very interesting, actually. It has to be addressed. If any youth, takes a position, then must use it to support the youth. Then the next, I will ask Zainab. Zainab, can you describe for me how COVID-19, in your view, has impacted young people's organizing and activism?
Thank you for the question. So you all know that COVID-19 pandemic has affected activities for many people. Public health restrictions caused by COVID-19 have led to canceled festivals, public events, and many of them have been limited or even put on hold. Let's take the example of the Commission on the Status of Women 65 that was held online this year. I participated. It was virtual. No one can deny that we faced like many challenges. Internet connection, having different session times across different countries, too much screen time created a psychological strain. But what I can say is that it worked. And even the Generation Equality Forum as well was held virtually, but everything was as expected or even better. In-person activities were absent this year, but let's say a new era of virtual and digital activism has been created. We have to say that social media played a huge role in raising people's voices and our voices. For example, we had to talk to our decision makers through social media to raise our voices as young women. It was challenging, yet I admit that I felt proud that I could maintain the same energy for more than 2 weeks, sitting in front of screen, simply because I was convinced that digital activism was such an important and efficient thing. Attending parallel side events, working hard, always being present was the secret behind overcoming these challenges of online activities. Over the last few years, we saw that some people, they started even taking action and start implementing online activism. But during coronavirus crisis, we saw that now we are sharpening and amplifying the tools that already had that we already had to influence a change. Advocacy has taken a new path that is really making impact and mobilizing people all over the world. Thank you.
Shukran jazilan, Zainab. And lastly, Prashan, please explain the importance of learning and establishing connections in the global south, especially during the pandemic. You have the floor, Prashan.
Thank you, Dr. Tedros. I think it's a very important reality that we who are living in the global south start paying more attention to new innovation that's happening in the global south. Many times we look to the global north and we're looking for opportunities, but the reality is that our context is more similar to the rest in the global south. And at the same time, realizing that most of our countries have similar realities because our governments didn't have the capacity to give bailouts to our businesses. They didn't have capacity to provide support and finances for people who are working in the informal sector. So many of them were struggling. But I've been inspired to see many amazing youth movements in the global south stepping in for the deficit and the incapacity and the limitation of our governments and start responding to those in need without considering their ethnicity, their tribe or religion or whatever background they're from, that we stood together as a community. There was no way we could have got through the difficulties of the pandemic and the financial challenges of the pandemic. But it's been amazing to see young people working to ensure and identify those in need and respond to it. I love this story earlier on in the pandemic when we understood that elderly people were more at risk. We saw so many stories of young people going to the store to grab food and bring it over to elderly people to keep them from risk. And that level of enthusiasm and looking at ways that, yes, we may not have lots of resources, but youth movements can build change. As communities come together, we can get through this. And the only way we're going to get through this pandemic in the months and years to come is if we work together in a collective manner. At the same time, I think it's important for the global south to engage with each other is because many times we try to emulate solutions created in the West and assuming that there's a one size fits all and try to respond to our context. The brilliant solutions that are going to transform our nations are going to happen from within our nations. It's you, it's no one else. And so you have to start believing that you on the ground are the best person, you are the expert, you have the ownership to start thinking of innovative ways to respond. And you have to listen to others in the global south because there may be similar realities where you can refine your approaches to work in that reality. And finally, if you are frustrated and disappointed at the current realities of your countries, take that as inspiration that you as a generation won't leave your nations the way you have received it. For our children, that we ensure our economies are stronger, our systems are well in place, our healthcare is at a stronger level, that we can provide and serve people, that our children don't have to suffer the same way we are. Don't walk away from your countries and leave to find solutions in the West. Stay and fight for your communities and serve your communities. So I wish you all the very best and thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Prashan. And also would like to thank Ihab, Zainab. And I think I have to hand over now by thanking Shakira to hand over the floor to Shakira. Shakira, you have the floor.
So Dr. Tedros, on behalf of all of the young people listening in and those across the world, we want to thank you for your commendable leadership and also the humility you've really displayed during this pandemic. And also for being literally one of the most accessible leaders to young people globally without any bureaucracy or any red tape. And I can personally attest to that. But I'm going to go into a quick question for you to really put you in the hot seat, if I may. Could you reflect on what each of us have said very briefly? But then also, I'm quite interested to know what is your vision in terms of the next couple of years or the next decade at least? How will UN agencies work and collaborate with youth movements to rally around issues such as achieving the Sustainable Development Goals?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shakira. Can you hear me now? The perspectives and experiences of the, you colleagues who have spoken is so valuable and demonstrates the great potential of youth to deliver solutions to today's challenges and the importance of the Global Youth Mobilization Initiative. So I know you know the problems and you know the root cause of the problems and you know the solutions. So involving you is a must. Engaging you is a must. Your participation is a must. As you know, COVID has affected all people, but the impact on young people has been immense. Mental health anguish, disruption to education, employment, and future opportunities. We have seen how young people have been wrongly accused of being the drivers of the pandemic, and this is wrong. The only way we will rise sustainably from this crisis is by ensuring all voices are heard, including young people. Youth, as I said earlier, have the solutions. The SDGs are designed for making the world safer, healthier, and more prosperous for all people, especially today's and future generations. The Big Six movement is powerful. It mobilized hundreds of millions of young people around the world to build the healthier, safer, and fairer future we want and need. As you know, earlier this week, two members of the Global Youth Mobilization, Daisy Moran of the World YMCA, and Elahi Roshan of the IFRC, and climate and environment activist Greta Thunberg, joined our WHO presser. Greta spoke so passionately and persuasively on the links between climate justice and vaccine equity, the role of youth, and the need for the world to be a fairer place for all. So, I can't, say it more than you said. You have already shown that your engagement and participation is very important. And your participation, though, in a very organized way. So the six big group, plus we have the Youth Council now, as you know, and we will engage you through the Youth Council and other mechanisms. But an organized use is actually the best weapon. That's why the Youth Council will help, and the Big Six using that mechanism will help. So you have to strengthen your associations, your organizations, and push for change, especially as we build back the world better. Your position, your contribution, I don't think anyone will replace it. So that's what you should know. And I think we're reaching now to our closing. And I would be happy to say a few words also in closing. I want to thank all involved in launching the Global Youth Mobilization and organizing this first Global Youth Summit. Your efforts are contributing to a healthier, safer, and fairer world for all. And WHO is proud to support the Global Youth Mobilization and youth-led solutions worldwide. The world can only build back better if young people are at the heart of the response. This is the way. Thank you.
My God, I did not want this session to end. It was going so beautifully, and we are so fortunate that we could hear Dr. Tedros and such wonderful speakers. Like Dr. Tedros said, that we are moving closer to the end of our first day of the plenary sessions. I would like to now invite all the participants to visit our website, www.globalyouthmobilization.org, to select your breakout sessions that you will be attending. Please note that these sessions will, there are 3 parallel tracks, and the sessions can range from 45 to 90 minutes according to your choice of topic. Also note that these sessions will be delivered by over 40 partners of the GYM, and I would like to thank them for their contribution for this extraordinary program. Thank you so much.
For sure. And you all also can interact with us during the break sessions. Don't forget to go to the website and choose one. Me and Namrata will be around in there, choosing ours, of course. Maybe we can find some of you guys there. And that's all for today. But remember, it's just the first day. Let's go to the breakout sessions. And I see you guys there. And I see you guys tomorrow on the broadcasting. I'm Felipe from Brazil. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.